Alright guys, so we are back on the dyno after our 47 swap, and here's the previous dyno graph. 227 was fuel only, 304 was with the 136 jet. So we're gonna run it back. I got the same tires on as I did then, so we can do as direct comparison as possible. And after the first run we get our comparison, I'm gonna adjust timing, and we will probably end up spraying it again. So stick around, it should be fun. Alright guys, so it is Sunday. We dynoed last night and we are back today, and it's still strapped to the dyno because we have ideas. So to be completely transparent with you, very first runs, none of them were these. It was only making like 190 horsepower. Like it had lost like 30-ish horsepower or something. Like it just wasn't making power. The truck didn't seem like it didn't sound like it was doing much. It was just kind of going through the window, and we were thinking maybe since it has lockup now, it was just, it's indirect drive, all the power's going right through, and it's just, the engine's not really doing much, and it's actually putting down what it's making. I don't know. It was a big, long, we talked about it, and then we're like, well, let's just try and load it a little bit more, and it jumped from 190 to 221, and then loaded a little bit more, and it just kept kind of gaining, and we ended up at 239. You can ignore this number. Ended up at so basically 240 horsepower from 190. So we gained 50 horsepower just by changing the load and actually getting the truck to load the truck and it be on boost, and just working the truck harder. And just looking at our torque curve, it's completely flat. I really think it's overtimed just based off looking at the torque curve and how clackety the truck is. Like I've bumped timing on probably 15 VE trucks, and none of them have sounded like this truck. So I'm thinking whenever the engine went back together, whenever it had to be, the cam broke off, and it wasn't a KDP issue, like the back of the cam broke off in the block. It was a bad deal. It was like 10 or 12 years ago. And I'm pretty sure when they went back together with it, they skipped a tooth. So right now, if that's true, I'm at like 30 degrees base timing, which is way too much, especially on a stock fuel truck. So what we are going to do here is, you can see this thing will focus, maybe you can see my timing marks, the pink marks. So I'm gonna take about half of what I've got there out of it, and we're gonna see what it does. So hopefully this only takes me 15-ish minutes. I'm going to drill and tap a spot for fuel pressure so we can watch that at the same time, and then we're gonna run it again and load it up good and just see what it does, because so far at 240 horsepower, we got like a 13-ish horsepower gain from our 47 swap, which the drivability is through the roof. Like I've driven the truck and it feels so much better, and it's a lot funner to drive, but I'm hoping to see 250. That's kind of what I really want to see. That would be pretty good for a stock intercooled truck. Those stock intercooled pumps don't have much more in them than that. The non-intercooled trucks, you could see maybe around 280. But that's what I'm hoping for with the configuration that we're in. So I'm gonna go ahead and bump the timing back, pull it away from the head, because right now it's pretty close to the head. So we're gonna pull some timing out of it and see how it reacts. You guys stay tuned. All right, you guys can now see the black mark is where the pink line was matched up with. So we're not right on that first initial pink line, but we are barely just above it. So we're gonna tighten all of our bolts back down, put our pump linkage back on, and then I'm gonna tap for fuel pressure, and we're gonna run this thing. Alright guys, so some pretty cool comparisons. I had Larson start just running it on the dyno, and I watched the fuel pressure gauge. It is 2 psi at idle, and immediately it drops down to 0, so we have basically no lift pump pressure whatsoever. And this is where we ended up. So we've got 275 horsepower, which is a huge jump from where we were at last night. With the same load that it made on this last night, it was at 196 horsepower. So pulled timing, and it's for sure skipped a tooth or something because it reacted in a big way. So this is an insanely good number for a stock fuel truck, essentially. Like stock lift pump, stock injection pump, and stock injectors. Obviously the injection pump, I've put a fuel pin and governor spring in, but still, like, not having a, like, for example, Ratman pump or a comp pump, this is very good. And non-IC pumps, they can do around that for sure, but like I was saying earlier, but I am super happy with this. You can actually see it carries out the power out into the RPM. This is going to be, this versus this on the street is going to feel night and day. So I'm super excited to go drive this thing and look at our torque, how it was trailing off so hard, and now it holds. This is what will keep you back in the seat. It's going to hold it way out here instead of it. Literally, the torque would start to drop immediately. Like, we're only 1800 RPM here, so it's actually holding torque out, I think peak torque, all the way out to 2300. So that's way better than it was, and it's still making more. It's making way more power than it was all the way out to 2500. 2600. It's still above where we were at, so I'm very happy with these results. It's not up on the screen right now. I'll throw it up in the video. Did 320 horse with the ghetto fog, which is not as efficient as a single 136 in the charge pipe. So I couldn't find the stuff to rig up the ball valve and everything for nitrous, so said screw it. I'm already super happy with these results. Like, this is just gonna be drivability differences like crazy. And the fact that we didn't have to load it as hard or anything, it just reacted very nice. As to the explanation for why it did it, I don't really have an answer. I think with it being in third gear, completely one-to-one with the converter locked, there was no torque multiplication of any sort, and it was just, I don't know, it really, I think, just exposed the overtiming of the truck. Alright guys, so right there you saw me drilling a hole in the tank. So obviously I put a sump in my fuel tank, and as well as I hooked up my air dog. So since we were dropping to 0 psi fuel pressure as soon as it came off throttle, I decided let's go ahead and throw the air dog in this truck. It is a 5G 220 air dog from CJ, and it's too much for that truck, but I've got the regulator backed all the way out, so it's running right around 12 to, well, it's right about 12 psi. So we decided to do that and then strap it back down to the dyno. So that's what you're about to see here. This is a different day, but I wanted to include it all in one video, and I thought it was good, usable information. And then there wasn't much power gain there, but let's go ahead and roll the dyno clip. This is everything the same as 275 horsepower run, except now we have fuel pressure set at 12 psi, and it holds through 12 psi all throughout the run. Okay, and as you can see there, it's probably hard to tell these videos apart because we're splitting hairs at this point. So it did 280 horsepower and 570 foot-pounds, so it picked up 5 horsepower. I don't know if I would technically say it actually picked up 5 horsepower, but I mean, it did on the dyno. It might have just been because it was the first run that was cool don't know. It's really not that noteworthy. So we're at 280 horsepower with pretty much stock truck. I'm very happy about that, but I really thought we'd be able to cross the 300 number just with that. But right after this run, I decided I'm going to pull a little bit more timing out of it, and I didn't move it much, but it was enough to make a difference. So let's go ahead and look at that run. Now, that run was different power-wise, and the curve was a little bit different, and it was pretty interesting. So we made less power. It went from 280, and it made 267 horsepower. So we dropped 13 horsepower, but we gained a lot of torque. So 646. So we gained 77 foot-pounds, which isn't a ton, but the curve on the graph looks a lot different. I'll go ahead and pull it up on the screen here for you guys. But essentially we're making power a lot earlier. So even though it's making less peak power, it's making more average horsepower, which means all throughout the run it's making a higher average. We are above 250 horsepower at 1900 or 18. Basically 1850, we're above 250 horsepower, and before we didn't crest that 250 horsepower until 2100. So we're talking 300 something RPM difference about when we're even above a certain power level. So I'm definitely much happier with that. It's pretty flat horsepower curve. Then the torque picks up way earlier, so I can confirm that I drove it on the road and it's a much different driving experience. It is crazy how that little of change, and really the numbers are very close. That similarity in numbers can really just change how the drivability of the truck is. Granted, it is still a stock truck. It has the manners of a stock truck. It spools quick pretty much no matter what, but the power definitely was noticeably coming in earlier, and it was a little bit more torquey, like it put you back in your seat a little bit more, or kind of held you there a little bit longer, whichever one. It just felt a lot better, which I was fairly surprised. I didn't think I'd see that much difference, but it holds that power level all through instead of just peaking and touching it. So very happy with the timing adjustment. I didn't mess with it again. I figured that's right where I want it, and I'm very happy with the decision. So I think we're going to call the blue truck good up until I have injectors for it. We're going to put them in, but for right now, I'm just going to drive it because it is a completely just clean 267 to 270 horsepower. It's really all I could ask for right now. It doesn't really need to make much more as far as what the setup is. That's more than I should be asking out of it. So I'm very happy with it. I'm going to leave it there until we put a turbo on it or new injectors or something, but for now I'm just going to drive it, enjoy it, and do some of the other first gen upgrades that it needs, such as steering. That's going to be a big one, and then get the ride height where I want it, and hopefully have it ready for springtime. Maybe do some ET racing against Brett, do some dirt drags with Brett, and just have fun with the guys with it. It's nothing much at all, but it's just fun to get out and have fun with all your buddies. So that's going to wrap up our 47 swap comparison. So just real quick, wrap it up. Overall, the swap is worth it. I'm very happy with it. The drivability of the truck is just awesome. The power is there. The transmission gets it to the ground. Very, very happy with it. As far as number comparisons go, what you can expect, or what really in the perfect world, what you should expect is I gained a total of 52 horsepower. That was with the 280 number. So with the 267 number, obviously we're looking at high 38 or around 40 horsepower, something like that. And then we had a total gain of 92 foot-pounds of torque So almost 100 foot-pounds of torque difference once you have it all set up right, and that the timing where you want it, and just where it's really just driving the best. So that's my results. That's the for sure data that I can give you. That's what we did with this truck. So a non-intercooled truck may be different. You might get a little bit more out of it. It all depends. Those trucks have different gears. So my truck in that configuration would probably have 307s. That would change things. And that with, obviously I have, one thing I did mention is my converter stall with the 47 is higher than what the 518 would be. The 518 is a lot lower. This is a 1800 or 1850 RPM stall converter that I have in it. So the 518s were always much lower. They're usually sub 1600. So yeah, it just depends what you get. So that would also make for needing a timing adjustment too, is more than likely. I don't know, but that's the data I can provide you with. Use this as you will. I can say that the 47 swap was worth it for me. If you guys are interested in it, I highly recommend it. If you have any questions at all, just shoot me a message. I will be getting very close on my Anteater tune, so if you need a base file of some sort for your first gen, hit me up, call the shop, whatever you would like. And yeah, so until next time, we will see you guys on the Old School Crew. Keep kicking it old school. Peace out.